Hey, my name is Boris. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what I see at this point in my career is the biggest challenge in a startup, why it fails, why it doesn't fail. And I've seen this multiple times. Just a little bit about me, real quick. If you don't know me, my name is Boris. I've been building online businesses for 14 years. I've had numerous health concerns that I've had to overcome in my career. And I'm making these videos now so that I can document things that I missed in the past. I wish I documented a lot of those lessons in the past, and I didn't do that. So I want to do that now, and with my new startup that I have, I want to document everything that I'm doing weekly, so that I have that for the future. For a number of reasons. One is you can learn something about this. You can follow along. For me, it's a way to keep myself on track, also accountable, and also to document this whole stuff. Whatever happens with the startup, whatever learnings I get from that, I can then transfer them to a new startup. Well, if I do another one, I can transfer them to other people that I know, or I can send them to somebody who asks me a question about a certain something, or investors or whatever. So essentially, I'm just documenting this process. If it's useful for you, let me know down in the comments once you watch the video. So, all right, let's dive in. So, what do I think is the number one most like nuke point for a startup? And I would have to say it's kind of counterintuitive because I haven't seen anybody talk about this, but really it's the knowledge transfer from what you have in your head to the other people in the organization, right? And I'm going to just jump on a screen share to show you what I mean. But essentially, like to summarize it even further, is I have 14 years of experience of doing things in a certain way. I've tried many different things. So I have experience that I can bring to the table, especially if I'm starting something new where I already have a preconceived notion on how certain things should run or should be done, that I've had success with in the past. There's also things that I want to avoid that I have done in the past that didn't work so well, right? Now, if you start getting a co-founder, if they're a good one and you vetted them properly, they're probably going to have things that they have done well, that they are bringing to the table, that they have preconceived notions on that they think should run that way. So if you don't get a good co-founder or a team, and you start onboarding people, if these things are not clear, then what happens is instead of like everybody focusing on what's actually important and matters and why, it gets really fragmented. You lose momentum, and momentum is like the lifeblood of any business, right? If you lose it, it's really hard to get back, and it snowballs. If you get it, it's, hold on for dear life and make sure you don't lose it, right? And it's like that's kind of the dichotomy. And the thing is, when momentum is going up, everyone's morale is up. Everyone wants to work even harder on that thing. When momentum is going down, it's extremely difficult to keep people motivated, even if they believe in the mission, even if they like what you're working on, right? So I just needed to kind of preface. I'm going to go into the details here and show you like specifics of what I'm talking about. And this is something we're going through currently, right? So it's not like I nailed this. I have ways that we're making it better, that I'm avoiding mistakes from the past. But it is definitely something that I think is the number one thing that nukes companies, especially when they're like, even if you have some traction and then you're adding people, or in the beginning and you're trying to go a certain way and you're not in sync, it's really, really difficult. And again, I struggle with this daily, with the current organization, with past ones. So I'm going to dive in here and show a little bit about what I mean with this high quality, high end production of graphics. So let's say this is you, right? I'm just gonna riff here. So just hold with me here. It's not going to be that difficult to understand. So you have experience in a lot of different things, right? In a business. So you have, let's say you're building a business or a startup, and marketing. You understand there's certain operations, right? Certain technology, how you want to treat HR, people inside your business, and then customer experience, right? And so just to keep going a little bit on what this actually means. So like marketing, I might have learned how to do email marketing, right? Or I might have learned how to do Facebook ads, right? So now I have these two competencies that I can bring to the table, which is great. Those are skills that I have, right? And the underlying bias of how I would market if I got into a new startup is probably these two ways, because I already know those things and it's playing to my strength. So this can be good and bad, but I'll get to that in a second, right? So then operations, it's like, what kind of tech stack do we have, right? So like, I've done a lot with Shopify. I've done something with what's it called? HubSpot. Like all of these things, there's tech that I know, right? That I'm familiar with. So like Hub, right? And so I'm bringing all this, basically all of these things I have experience with, and I know how to do it in a certain way that I've learned over the years. Now, say you have a co-founder, right? So co-founder, I'm just gonna pretend that that is what it says. All right, so the co-founder also has experience in marketing, operations, technology, HR, etc., right? And depending on what type of co-founder it is, you know, you might be the technical co-founder or you might be the sales guy. Whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. But if they're a good co-founder and it's not their first business, they have other things. And even if it is the first time they're building a business, maybe they watched like 50 videos on marketing from like Y Combinator. They've listened to interviews of how this should be done. So in theory, they might have trained thoughts on what the marketing engine should look like and how, right? Now, this is a little bit less useful than you having actual experience, because you would know the nuance of how to do something. Like if somebody just said like cold email people, or like is the way that Groupon grew or something, right? So it's like great, but have you ever sent an email? Do you know what a server is? Which software have you used? Do you know how to build automation flows? How should those look? What's the structure of the email? How do you not spam people? Like, you see what I'm saying? So there's like a lot of different multifaceted things that you have to consider when you're doing any of these strategies, right? But essentially, let's say that they did have their own marketing experience, and we'll just run with marketing for a second. Now, what happens is you're trying to get, let's say you both agree that you should run Facebook ads. Okay, everyone likes to run these ads, so let's use them as the example. And let's just say that's what you want to do. And they're like, no, we should do Twitter or something. Okay, we should just be active on Twitter. And I have lots of experience. Let's say they have lots of experience doing that. So now you're like, in my mind, I think this is the clearer winner because I've done this before. And they're like, I think this is the clear winner because I've done this before. So if you're not able to come into the middle and decide which one to do, now there's friction already, right? And here's the actual caveat behind all of this. What market you're going after? The market, yep. So I'll just pretend that's market, right? This market, they might all be on Twitter, and that's the better place to start. Or they might be all on Facebook, and I have the ad experience here on Facebook, so that's the better place to start. Now, if we just go off of who knows what more and convince each other, we're missing the whole point, because the whole point is you should go after the market where they are. That's like where they're the most engaged, where you can engage with them and start seeing if they want to buy your product or not, right? So really, the experience here is only relevant if it fits where the market is. Now, let's say that the market is on both places. Let's say they're equally on Twitter as they are on Facebook. How do you decide which one to go after, right? Now you have to go into like, well, let's say I want to run Facebook ads. Well, Facebook ads cost money, right? So if there's equal opportunity to go after these, then maybe Twitter, organic, engaging with Twitter is the better place to go, right? But let's say that we have a budget and we want to spend the money. then is it faster to go the Facebook route? So is it money or do you want speed? Okay. Right. So you can see how this can start. You're starting to break down which competencies should we lean into, right? And so I can keep going. It's like, okay, well, if we don't want to spend money and we want speed, how do we get Twitter now to be speed without money? You know, so it's like all of these things. Once you decide this, the strategy and you have a good reason behind it, that's what first should be done. Now, how Twitter should be run, whoever has more experience should head that and be like, look, this is how we've done it in the past. Okay. Here's da 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 da, right? So it's like, here's how I've done this in the past, and I think this is how it should be done, right? So this person, you have to buy into this and fully commit. Because if you don't, you're just gonna scatterbrain and try these different tactics and not be on the same page and just do crazy different things. And that doesn't get you any momentum, right? It could get you some momentum, but it'll also hold you back. So I think, you know, if this isn't clear and you aren't aligned and the person who has experience with it presents their idea, the other person shouldn't just take it at face value. They should definitely go after and challenge all of the things being presented, because again, you want to make sure that whatever worked in the past for that business, this is a new business, you got to remember, and it's a new market. So you have to be vetting for, is this the best way to go about this market? And I'm not saying like spend a ton of time over it, because you should test things quickly and see how the market responds for sure. But essentially, it's like, let's make sure that your past experience, what you're bringing to the table, isn't overshadowing how we're trying to message to the market or get to them, right? So I hope that makes sense. I want to point out that if you get more and more people on board, this gets even harder, right? And this is where I had a lot of challenges in my other businesses. So we're getting all these people, and if they don't know how to do Twitter marketing, they have no idea, this box of people. Just telling them we should do Twitter doesn't get them buy-in, no buy-in. Okay, and you need them to buy in to understand why we're doing this, which would be, this is the market and they're here and we're trying to execute for speed without spending money, to be financially responsible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And if there's no procedures for them to follow and they don't understand why they're doing it, they're going to do Twitter in all these ways that they think is best given their experience. You see? So now, instead of having like 10 people working on that's a terrible one thing, you have 10 people working on 20 things, but they look like one thing. Okay? Right? Because this wasn't explained, the process wasn't laid out, the head team isn't communicating this well. Like all of these little things fall through the cracks as soon as you get other people on board. So it's so important, and to kind of correlate and be together in this process and understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, which market you're going after. The person who has more experience should present everything. And I'm not saying, by the way, this should all be documented. The thing with documenting it is you shouldn't do it in the beginning until you've done numerous amounts of testing, until you got something that wins and is like a consistent way of getting those clients. That's when you document it and make a whole presentation. And then when you onboard people, you give them that and say, here's like all the things we tried. Let's say there's 20 things you tried. None of them worked, which got us to this. Then they have a complete picture of why you're where you are, because they might come in and say, at this other company, we didn't do it that way. So this just seems like the wrong thing, right? And if they're not believing in what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it and how many tries you try to get to something that works, they're just going to have these preconceived notions too, that it might be a wrong thing or it's not doing as well as it should be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? This is why I'm going to point out one more thing. Like take a Shopify, right? For example, Shopify, I believe, spends 2 to 3 months onboarding. You don't do anything. You're onboarding, right? So the reason why they do this is, I think, is exactly trying to tackle this problem, which is you're coming in, they have all these things that they have done. You need to understand them. You need to buy into them. They need to make sense. You need to understand how they got there and why they got there. What else have they tried, so that you're not thinking about, oh, we could try this or try that. It's already been tried, right? Most of the time, if something is working and optimized at that level, especially at Shopify's level, they've done so many things to get to a point where it's working, and tested different things, right? So essentially, I really believe, because I went from 4 employees in one of my last companies to 22 within 6 months. It was the worst time in my life because I had all of this. Direction wasn't good for me. The employees didn't exactly know what's going on. I changed things on them all the time. I didn't spend enough time training them. We didn't have a like robust onboarding like this. They didn't understand philosophies. They half knew like 20 different things. And so therefore, instead of focusing on this one thing that consistently works and making it the best, we had like 50 things. Okay. I mean, that business is still around, it's just not growing, and it was on a rocket ship, and now it's not on a rocket ship anymore, right? So anyway, I hope that helped and made some sense. I understand that what's it called? I drew a lot of things on this board, but if you did like the presentation and you got something out of it, I would love for you to hit the like button, subscribe, and I will be back with some more of these learnings. This is something we're struggling with right now in our company. So I'm gonna keep kind of putting the stuff out there that we're struggling with, what I've seen in the past, and how we're trying to get around this. And just to kind of do an overview here, if this is a problem, it really helps to start documenting and making sure that if something is working, there's documentation that anybody can go to see where it's at, including the things that you've tried, and also they should be presented with, here's why we did this. So, all right, guys, thanks for popping by, and hope to see you in the comments with any questions, and let me know if you like these types of videos. So, all right, have a good one.